Civilizations rise and fall. Human history is filled with countless examples of different groups of people working towards a common goal: to create an empire seeking to achieve amazing things while covering thousands of miles. And while the age of empires is nothing but a relic of the past, it is still amazing to see that there were rulers before our time who ended up stretching the borders of their dominions far and beyond. So today, we're going to have a look at 10 of the largest empires ever. Now before we begin, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel Top Best for Everything for more content like this. Number 10. Portuguese Empire. While Portugal might be a small country in Europe, between 1415 and 1999, the Iberians set about creating an empire. The Portuguese Empire was the first of the European colonial empires, and while the British Empire eventually became a more dominant presence, the Portuguese Empire enjoyed the sort of longevity most empires could only dream of. This empire spanned a total of 6 centuries. In the 1400s, they were at the forefront of navigation development, cartography, and maritime technology. They tested unknown waters across all corners of the globe. Following the Second World War, Portugal half-heartedly agreed to start decolonizing with their last colony, Macau, handed over to China in 1999. Number 9. Yuan Dynasty. Between 1279 and 1368, the Yuan dynasty became the first of its kind in China to be led by a foreigner. Mongol Empire's all-conquering Kublai Khan laid the foundations of this dynasty and ruled over it with an iron fist until his death in 1227. The dynasty was the first of its kind to introduce the concept of paper currency. Sadly, due to the several natural disasters such as bubonic plague and rebellions, the empire crumbled and was overthrown by the Red Turban Rebellion. Number 8. Umayyad Caliphate. The Umayyad Caliphate was the first Muslim-led dynasty and is still credited for the spread of Islam and Arabic language in the Middle East and North Africa. In their glory days, the Umayyads captured vast regions and introduced art and culture to their new territories. Their reign, however, would not last, and almost all of the princes were massacred in 749 by the Abbasids. The only prince to survive was Abd al-Rahma I, who fled to Spain, where he found his own dynasty. Number 7. Abbasid Caliphate. As mentioned, the Abbasids dethroned the Umayyads in 750 and would go on to rule for 3 centuries. During that time, Islam was the beacon of intellectual and cultural developments. The age is considered the Golden Age of Islam. The Caliphate remained in power until the Mongol invasion of 1258. Number 6. Second French Empire. Ruled by Napoleon III between 1852 and 1870, this dynasty eventually crumbled following the Franco-Prussian War that resulted in an uprising in Paris. The events led to the abdication of Napoleon, and this is exactly where his empire met its end. Number 5. Spanish Empire. Rivaling the Portuguese Empire, the Spanish Empire lasted nearly 5 centuries and was known as an empire where the sun never set. The territory was so big that there would be daylight in one of its territories at any point in time. The Spaniards reigned supreme over territories in Europe, Africa, the Americas, and even the Philippines. Number 4. Qing Dynasty. Lasting between 1644 and 1912, the Qing dynasty was the last of China's imperial dynasties. The society had a conservative feel to it and had zero tolerance towards homosexuality. Women were expected to be pure, and accepting a widow as a wife was something that was looked down on. The Qing dynasty also did not have time for frivolities, such as literature and stage, so you can expect how boring life would have been under the Qings. Thankfully, this dynasty fell in 1911 after a revolution that started in 1894. Xuantong was the last emperor of this dynasty. Number 3. Russian Empire. Spanning the 16th century and the early 20th century, the Russian Empire won against the Swedish and Polish empires during the Great Northern War. Sadly, though, the February Revolution that was started due to the economic strain World War I had on Russia spelt an end to this empire. Number 2. Mongol Empire. The Mongols ruled between 1206 and 1638 in what was a large and dangerous empire to live in. Genghis Khan riled the lands after a series of invasions and conquest. All invasions were some of the deadliest in human history. Khan's army would kill people with impunity, but would eventually establish trade routes between the East and the West. By 1368, the Mongol Empire started losing its glory and was eventually put to the task by the Chinese Ming Dynasty. Number 1. The British Empire. The British Empire to date is the largest empire in history. The most remarkable thing about this empire is not the longevity, but the manner in which it covered so many territories. All this was possible by the creation of the East India Company, a London-based trade business that had ulterior motives. The sun would never set on this empire that occupied at least one territory in all 5 continents, excluding Antarctica. The empire was doing pretty well until the outbreak of the Second World War. The British were almost bankrupt by the war, and there was growing unrest among many of its colonies. Eventually, the British decided to start pulling out of their colonies. First, the Indian subcontinent was given freedom with the founding of Pakistan in the year 1947. Slowly but surely, the British kept pulling out and today sit on a small territory. However, the Commonwealth Games are a great indicator of how many states used to be under the British rule for over a century. The same can be said about the British museums that boast some of the most unique items belonging to the former territories. Now that's all in today's video, ladies and gents. Now don't forget to subscribe for more and comment down below your favorite empire, either from this list or maybe one that we didn't mention today.